So there's a common dynamic posture that I'd like to address, and that's goddess squat. Typically when I go to a class, they'll have us inhale up and exhale down. And if I'm doing pelvic floor breathing, this kind of goes against trying to expand into my pelvic floor and zip up and create that structure, because I'm working against the resistance of my muscles, and so I'm actually building more tension. And if you already have an overly tightened pelvic floor, resisting against the muscles is going to create more tension. And it's leaving you very vulnerable to injury here, pulling a muscle or straining a muscle in a very sensitive and vulnerable area. So if you're breathing backwards, as in inhaling and lifting up on the pelvic floor, exhaling and releasing the pelvic floor, then it might make sense to inhale up and drop down, drop everything down. But if we're bearing down and dropping down on an exhale as we spread and open up that space, then we're setting ourselves up for incontinence, prolapse, hemorrhoids, and hernias. So this is something we kind of want to avoid. We want to give support, kind of like if I had a hammock down there and it went slack and I spilled out of it. So we don't want our organs falling out of our pelvic floor. So we want to be toning, widening, and integrating the muscle, and exhale, lifting and gathering. So I inhale as I come down. I'm getting space to fill up and flourish. Exhale, lift, gather, and compress. Inhale, release, and exhale, lift. And if I'm breathing backwards, then I'm inhaling up, lifting up on the pelvic floor, and exhaling and then dumping down. Not giving any space, just kind of dumping it all out. So we want to have some awareness in our movement when we're creating that vulnerable space. Inhaling, releasing into that base, and exhale, zipping and lifting. If I wanted to work with resistance in the pelvic floor, which I probably wouldn't want to do if it's tight because resistance is going to cause more tension, I would recommend staying in the static squat and practicing here, inhaling into the pelvic floor and exhaling, kind of isolating the movement so I don't have the noise of the orchestration of more layers of dynamic movement. I can focus my attention on the movement of the pelvic floor muscles. So inhaling and opening. You can even hold on to something, a chair or the wall to help balance and give support. As your body strengthens and becomes more intelligent in this awareness of the pelvic floor, then you might be able to add a little bit more resistance. What I would try to be aware of is not resisting against the stretch of the muscle as I'm going down and pulling against that tightening of the pelvic floor as I exhale. If you're just really set on creating the movement for whatever reason, needing to work into this area, I might suggest coming down onto the floor, removing the weight-bearing aspect on the pelvic floor, and taking the legs out of a fixed position, which will decrease the likelihood of injury. You can come onto the floor and inhale here, exhale. Inhale, expand, exhale, pull in and up. When it comes to the body, we can work with tension and expansion, lengthening and contracting. So using these two to help us sculpt the body and release tension patterns. Just becoming aware of how we're using it. Are we exacerbating tension or are we counteracting it? So this is what we need to think about in the yoga of our yoga